Good afternoon everyone, and welcome back. Cumberland Outdoorsman here again, and today I'd like to feature a classic caliber in a rifle that I built several years ago. The caliber I'm talking about is none other than the 270 Winchester. The 270 Winchester was introduced in 1925 in Winchester's Model 54 bolt-action rifle, and its greatest advocate was the late Jack O'Connor, who was a famous outdoor writer. He wrote many articles in magazines, outdoor magazines, and also in, hunting books. He used it very extensively, especially out in the western part of the United States. And I believe he took all North American big game with that caliber, excluding probably the Alaskan brown bear. I'm not sure. I don't believe he took that, but you can fact check that later. But the 270 is more than capable of taking medium to big game at extended ranges because it has good velocity and is a flat shooting cartridge. And at most hunting ranges it's more than capable of taking big game. And here in the east where I live, here in Tennessee, the big game that we have here are deer and black bear. I don't hunt black bear, but let me tell you, the 270 is more than capable of taking any whitetail. So whitetail deer are very popular, probably North America's most popular big game. And you're probably wondering why I would want to use the 270 here in the woodlands of Tennessee when most of the ranges are under 100 yards. Well, occasionally I'm faced with long distance shots between two woodlots across a field or something where I can very realistically be faced with a 300-yard shot or more, or between a cut power line, between two sections of wood. There may be a big buck standing out there at 300, 350 yards. So in that case you'd need a flat shooting rifle that's capable of handling a good bullet that will perform well at those distances, and the 270 definitely fits that bill. Here in this old reloading manual that I've got, this is a Hornady manual that I featured, I believe, last winter when I talked about the 222 Remington. I also showed the same manual, and here it shows probably the most popular loading for the 270 Winchester, the 130 grain. And as you can see, it can achieve velocities up to 3,200 feet per second with that bullet. And let me tell you, that's right on the heels of the 7mm Remington Magnum, which is also a very popular flat shooting big game cartridge. It's a little bit slower and it doesn't pack quite the same punch, but it's right there with it at most hunting ranges. It's 100 or so feet per second behind that caliber, but in most cases the game's not going to know the difference anyway. Anyway, the rifle that I've got here is one that I built, like I said, several years ago, and all I had to work with was an action. This is a K98 Mauser action, and it's fitted with a side swing safety. I did away with the old flip over safety that the K98 had, and I put a barrel that I ordered from Brownells, chambered in 270, on the action. It's got a Timney adjustable trigger, and I had to alter the bolt handle so that you could cycle the bolt with a low mounted scope like the one I've got here. And speaking of which, this is a Redfield 3x9 partner. It's got a bridge style mount mounted to the action with Burris steel rings. The stock is a American black walnut stock that I got from Winnig, and I finished it myself using True Oil and checkered the grip cap and the forend, and I polished all the steel down and had it professionally reblued. The side swing safety works this way, just like the Model 70 Winchester. All the way to the rear is safe and then forward is fire. And I machined the bolts so that I could put it on safe and actually be able to open the action and unload the gun with it on safe, because this is a real safety, folks. This actually blocks the firing pin, and in my opinion that's the best safety there is, you know, something that actually holds the firing pin itself. So anyway, I'm going to be doing some shooting with this rifle. I'll be shooting at 100 yards and doing some group testing to see how accurate the gun is. And the reason I'll be doing that, you're probably wondering, if I've had the gun so long, how come you don't know already? Well, Sierra came out here fairly recently with a new bullet. This is a 140 grain Sierra Gamechanger. It's a tip bullet, and they're somewhat longer, more streamlined than the regular bullet, so it has a little bit higher ballistic coefficient. This is a bow tail, and it has this green tip. I'm not sure what kind of material they used for that, but they claim it aids in accuracy. So I'll be shooting it in terms of accuracy, and also what kind of performance we'll get at varying ranges, shooting at wet newspaper and 1-gallon water jugs. Well, I'll be shooting into the wet newspaper just like I did with the muzzleloader videos that I posted, and then I'll do another water jug test at 100 yards. So stick with me, let's see what this old gun can do. Well, here we are at the 100 yard mark, and I've got a series of 1-gallon water jugs set up here. I've got 6 of them. I got them pretty well arranged in a straight line with my line of fire, and I'm curious to see what this new Sierra tipped Gameking bullet will do striking these water jugs. Now, this is the same kind of test that I performed 2 weeks ago using my muzzle loaders, because I wanted to get ready for the season. So let's see what this bullet will do. My prediction, I think that the bullet's going to come completely apart. I've done everything I can to try to capture it, but I believe that the lead core is going to come out of the copper jacket, because the 270 is actually a high velocity cartridge, and at 100 yards it's still, you know, it's stepping along pretty good. So even if it does, I'm still going to use it on game, because, you know, that kind of energy transfer is going to relate to a clean kill. But here we go, we're going to try it at 100 yards. Let's see what we came up with here. That bullet demolished the first few jugs there, as you can see. This is the first one, and it completely shredded it. And we got a bullet hole here. Let's see, there's still some water in this jug. The bullet came out there. I don't see or hear anything. Knock this one off the pedestal, it's still good. I think we may have a bullet. Yeah, I see something down the bottom there. Huh. Well, to my surprise, that bullet stayed together. I thought that the lead core would come out of that jacket, but there you have it, folks. That's pretty good performance. It retained a lot of its weight. That's at 100 yards, so it went through 1, 2, 3, and ended up in the 4th jug. I don't think there's a white-tailed deer on this planet that can withstand that. There you can see that it mushroomed down a little more than halfway and still retained the base, which is pretty much what we want, you know. That should penetrate a whitetail pretty well. Okay, I shot that shot offhand, folks. Let's see if we capture that bullet. I screwed these boards together to try to contain the bullet out of that 270, but it looks like it busted that board there. Let's see if we can find it here. I didn't know if it was able to withstand the pressure. Yeah, there it is. It went to that about a little over a foot from the last part of it and penetrated almost 2 feet there through wet newspaper. But there it is, fully expanded. That's the 270 140 grain shot into wet newspaper. Well, folks, that was an interesting little test. I was wondering what these bullets would do fired into wet newspaper. This is what I got. There's a close-up. You can see that the lead core did stay intact. It remained intact. That's the base of the bullet. And it mushroomed out over the base. But it retained a great deal of its weight. And that's great performance. If I can get that on deer-sized game, that'll be just perfect. Well, here we are at the 100-yard mark, and once again I've got a series of 1-gallon water jugs behind me here that's in direct line of fire from where I'm set up. And we're going to see what that 140 grain Sierra Gameking Tipped bullet will do at 100 yards on water jugs. I had to bring that load down just a little bit because I was shooting right at and just slightly over 3,000 feet per second, and that's really more performance than necessary for a white-tailed deer. You know, so I brought it down to about 2850. You'll see the chronograph readings, and that's plenty. That's more than ample energy for a white-tailed deer. So that's what I'm loading for. So here we go. We're going to shoot at 100 yards and see what kind of performance we can achieve with these bullets. Alright, let's see if we captured that bullet. There's a hole in this one and I don't see anything coming out, so this one here was the last one and it's still intact, so we'll save it for a later test. But I believe we've got a bullet in here. So let's see what we got here. I think we captured that round. Oh, I hear it. And there it is. Once again, perfect performance. The core stayed intact. The base of the bullet still there. All the copper jacket has peeled over the base. And a lot of the weight was retained, so that's just great. That's what I'm looking for right there. Looks like I'll be using this bullet this year to go deer hunting. Well, after seeing those test results, I think you can well agree that the new Sierra Tipped Gameking bullet is a very good performer. I really like the design. You know, it's a long, sleek bullet, so it has good ballistic coefficient. This one's in a boat tail, and it should retain its energy and velocity at extended ranges. And although the test results that I performed today were at close range, relatively speaking, here's the bullets that I was fortunate enough to capture. This is the first one here. This is the one fired into the wet newspaper medium. Here, I'll give you a close look. That's the core of the bullet. That's the lead core. And you can see how the copper jacket peeled out over the base of the bullet. That's the base of the bullet there. And everything stayed pretty well intact. You know, the lead core stayed intact with the jacket. Here's the one that I fired into the jugs at 100 yards. That's into water jugs. Pretty much the same performance. You can see there is the lead core. There's the base of the bullet, you know. And one thing I've noticed in the past, that when I was shooting boat tail bullets like this, the lead core was separating from the jacket on a regular basis. But most of these that I fired into test medium, the lead core is staying intact. You know, it's staying right there with the jacket. So that's pretty good performance in terms of expansion. You know, that's the kind of expansion you want on game animals. You want that bullet to drive deep and penetrate through the vital organs and to expend its energy inside those vital organs, because tissue destruction is what kills the game animal. You know, that's what you want. All the velocity and energy is not going to do you any good if the performance of that bullet is not destroying the vital tissue inside that animal to ensure a quick, humane death. You know, that's what we're striving for. We don't want any suffering going on. So, you know, with that kind of performance, I think we can achieve that. And in terms of accuracy, I always knew this old gun was a pretty good performer. It shot 100-yard groups, you know, just over an inch, maybe 2 inches at times, sometimes a little bit more, depending on the weather conditions, you know, if it was real windy or whatever, or what type of load I was using. But here I loaded 51 grains of H4350 using that Sierra Gameking 140 grain, and this is a 100-yard group. There you can see the extreme spread between those two. There is 0.583. That's just over a half an inch, folks, at 100 yards with a hunting rifle. You know, that's phenomenal performance for a hunting rifle. Here I got 3 bullets that are practically touching one another right there. You know, 3 bullet holes right there together. So that really boosted my confidence in that bullet itself, and that's what I'm going to be using this year, you know, when I go deer hunting when the Tennessee rifle season opens up. With that kind of accuracy and that kind of performance, you know, there's not much room for error in terms of the equipment that you have. I had to step down just a little bit in my loading. I was getting between 2,940 feet per second to just slightly over 3,000 feet per second with that bullet, so I came down a little bit because it's really not necessary for a whitetail to have that much power. So I went down a couple of grains and I got 2,850 to 2,880 feet per second, which is more than ample for a whitetail, believe me. Okay, here is the Hodgdon loading data for the 140 grain bullet in 270 Winchester, and here you can see different loadings using different types of powder with that bullet weight. And the readings I got on my chronograph were pretty well consistent with what's loaded here. That shows a maximum loading of 2,870 feet per second. And as you can see from my readings, that's pretty close to what I got. So, you know, I wanted to make sure that this load that I'm using is going to be getting me ready for the Tennessee rifle season. And speaking of getting ready, now is the time. You know, make sure that your gun and your bullet combination are working to your satisfaction so that when you go afield, you don't have any doubts as to how well your gun's going to shoot. Don't wait until the day before or the night before the season opens to find out that you're out of shells, and then you go run to Walmart or wherever and find out they don't have the shells that you were using last year. Get yourself ready now, you know. That's in terms of your shooting equipment. Also, make sure your tree stands, you know, are up to par, that everything's safe, that your safety equipment is in good condition, and check your day pack. Make sure you have everything in there. Make sure you got your calls, your hunting knife, your folding saws, whatever it is you need, you know, your binoculars. Make sure all that stuff's in there. Don't wait until the night before to try to scramble around and look for all that stuff. You know, now's the time. Get yourself ready now. So that's my best advice to you. So in closing out, let me just say that I appreciate you watching the video, and hopefully I enclosed enough good content so that you learned something from this and that I could relay the message to you to get your hunting equipment ready before the season. You know, this is all part of the hunt. You know, getting your equipment ready. Get out, sight your rifle in. Make sure everything's in good condition. That's just part of being a responsible hunter. So with that closing thought, let me just say that, like I say, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you like to go hunting, fishing, camping, shooting, hiking, whatever it is, I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. And until next time, hit that like button, smash that bell icon, and subscribe. That way you'll know when more videos like this will be coming your way. So until next time, y'all stay safe out there, and take care, my friends. We'll see you.